Hello, my name is Pej. I'm a drug interventionist. I specialize in helping people who are suffering with drug addiction, alcoholism, mental health, and many other disorders. Today we're going to talk about sober livings, the importance of sober livings, what their purpose is, why people go to sober livings, what kind of sober livings are out there, and what kind of sober livings people should be going to. Okay, so what are sober livings? Sober livings are basically homes where people are required to go for a while after they've gone through treatment or if their lives aren't working for them to stay sober. Now, what kind of sober livings are there out there? There's a lot of people that call their homes sober livings. That there's actually people that are actively using drugs in those sober livings. Sometimes the house manager is supposed to be managing a house, but they're not sober. I believe that any type of house that allows people to smoke weed in it or where people are not completely sober isn't a solid sober living. I do believe in a structured sober living environment. What does that consist of? That means that the management is very serious about their own recovery if they're in recovery, and they oversee a house where they hold people accountable. Definitely drug testing is of great importance. People are usually going to sober livings because they've been to treatment centers before, they've been incarcerated in jail, they are, homeless for a while, and their lives aren't working for them because of their drug addiction or their alcoholism that they've been engulfed in for a long time. So they need a sober environment where they're held accountable. A good structured sober living is basically a house where people are not allowed to be there during the daytime. They need to be out and about on job search. Also, a good sober living is that of one which definitely emphasizes the importance of recovery. Being very serious about coming into sober living as far as wanting to stay sober long term and then really doing the work that it takes to be in recovery, however that may work. Some people will continue to be an outpatient and they're in sober living. Some people have already finished their treatment process and now they need to get, integrated into a community, build a support group, go to meetings, 12-step meetings, if you will. Get a mentor, get some kind of spiritual advisor. Some people call them sponsors. Have that person take you through the 12-step process if that's the way you roll. And it's of great importance for that person to stay in sober living for a while before they just go and try to get their own place again. Because any person that gets their own place right after they are newly sober without any kind of guidance or doing any really deep-rooted work on themselves might get the place, might get the stellar job, but if they don't have recovery, they will tank those. They will lose the job. They will lose the apartment. That's just how it goes. I've seen it time and time again. Places that aren't adequate sober livings are called flop houses. Basically, they're just somebody who has gotten a house, put some beds in it. They don't have a lot of rules. People aren't required to do chores. Anything like that is basically a place where somebody is just going and existing. They're not really about long-term recovery. They're basically taking a break from using and drinking. That is why sometimes when there's no structure within a sober living and somebody goes through a place like that, they don't really have a good influence. They're not influenced by the house, by the management, or they have no friends in the community. When you don't have any friends in a sober community, you're by yourself, and then you become an isolator. You're basically a ticking time bomb, and there's a great chance that you may relapse. I never wish relapse upon anyone, but if you don't have a good community and you're not engulfed in some kind of recovery program, you're as good as loaded. A lot of times when people go to sober living, I encourage their families to really push them in that direction. Don't bring your loved ones back into your home if that's where they were actively using and drinking. It's pretty much the lion's den. It's everything that they ever felt before. They are back in their old environment. If they come back to your house, they see the same room that they were using in. It can become triggering and they could use again. So there's a great chance that they might. The best thing is to push them in the direction of going to sober living for a while, but make sure that you choose your sober living wisely. Scout out sober livings. Go by reputation. Know who's overseeing. Know who the sober livings are connected to. Make sure that there's really solid sober livings. And often it's good to know if somebody's overseeing or owning a sober living, are they in recovery and how serious do they take their recovery to? So if you or someone you know is seeking a sober living and you need a good connection, you can always call me at this number right here and I will guide you in the right direction. Nationally, I'm connected to all of the good sober livings.